Super. So now I think we are complete. I'm very lucky to be here with absolutely experts in the material for the next 45 minutes. Perhaps at first shortly to myself, partner at PwC, dealing with managed services the whole day, and looking really forward for the discussion how we can even transform this much, much better with technology, our services. So perhaps at first a little introduction round. Would you like to start, Mariusz?
Hello. Yes, it works. So hello everyone, I'm Mariusz Mulas. I am the global head for software engineering at Roche.
Hi everyone, I'm Daniele Stenico, managing director of Billennium Switzerland and global head of Pharma.
So hi everybody, so Antonio Queiroz, I'm Portuguese. I'm very happy to be at home for once. I'm the Chief Digital Officer of Euroclear, which actually means everything digital for us. So everything which is data, AI, and so on sits with me, and happy to be with you today.
Hello everyone, bon dia, we can say. I'm Mauro Portela. I work for Danone. I lead the master data management operations globally.
So I'm Jan from OMV, oil and gas company from Austria. I'm the CIO and the head of the global business services in Bucharest.
Super. So perhaps we start with a little bit setting the scene. Where do you think you are in your environment with regards to technology transformation? And also, and I think this was also discussed yesterday and today a little bit, do you think we invest enough? So we as either headquarters or other company is our technology transformation in the GBS environment? You would like to start, Mariusz?
Absolutely, thank you so much. So we are in the healthcare industry, and the technology advancement is for us a competitive advantage too. So it is no longer a duo of the medicine and the diagnostics. There is a technology impact as an equal partner to it. And I know this industry is not very well known, so just to boost a bit your imagination, where we can apply the new technologies, the areas not only of the workflows optimization, as we were speaking a lot about, there is enrichment of the documents reading. You can imagine how many research papers, how many of the new regulations are coming, or maybe even some drug adverse events. So this is also that can be empowered with the technology. And then going deeper, it's more towards the personalized medicine, where you can really, with the AI, more quickly and more adequately assess what are the specific treatments for your profile, for your personal profile, your genome. And then going even deeper, it's image processing, and not only diagnosing what is the oncology tumor and where it is located, but more into the proteins, how they are in the cells, how they interact with each other. This is really, really something that is transformational for us. And the question, if we invest enough, is a very tricky question, because sometimes you need to say stop, because the level of adoption, so how much is really the organization capable of adopting, it has its limits. So we need to progress at the right level, also considering the organizational workforce.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I would like to mention 3 topics, and maybe before I go there, just a big explanation, because we are service provider, so our point of view is more as a service provider to large organization. Of course, working together with the larger companies, we see what they need and how we need to shape ourselves in order to help them. But the three topics that we learn from our clients and from the market trends are cost, the technology innovation, and tracking results. Similar to what was discussed yesterday on a panel. I would like to mention cost first. We are mostly based in Poland, but also global. And we see significant inflation in these countries, in Poland, but also in India. And as we were discussing yesterday, labor arbitrage is not anymore, I would say, the significant factor. For us, it's more where we get the best talent, where we get the best experts that can deliver. So we need to be global in order to better serve our client and our future client in terms of cost, because we are in a phase of significant inflation. Hopefully now with the pivot of the central banks, there will be a control on this spike in inflation, but definitely something that we need to deliver to our clients is optimization of the cost. The second point, and again there was a panel which I found very important, is that when we see that there is no much labor arbitrage, we need to focus on technology. We need to innovate, we need to bring the last technologies, we need to find the right use cases for our client and make sure that brings right value. And this brings me to the third topic, how we actually measure the value. And we mostly work in a managed service and staffing augmentation, but our client has a very, very important need to measure this by outcome. And what we are saying is to change our model of serving clients to make sure that they pay for results, they don't pay for people. And of course, we bring them the right talent, but we need to bring most the right results.
Okay, let's touch on this a little bit later again, I think.
Yeah, maybe just to add to the 2 points before. So Euroclear is a very large financial institution. So maybe 2 perspectives to it, which I wanted to share is, we see 2 things which, to answer your question about are we investing enough, that are relevant for us. So there's a lot of change happening or in the making regarding the way capital markets work. And I guess we'll get more in the afternoon with one of our speakers about that. And that triggers a lot of opportunity as such. At the same time, as financial institutions invested very early in technology, we have a lot of what you would call legacy. If you want to be nice, you would say vintage technology that needs to be replaced with a lot of questions regarding what's next. Cloud, AI, DLT. So we are sitting in this perfect storm situation whereby there's a lot of good reasons to adjust to the different business context and then to see how technology can support. Now, how fast you go, it's indeed a tricky question because, and I guess we're going to discuss about that, there are both benefits and challenges behind that. So the balancing point for us is finding the right mix between the two. How do we answer to these business opportunities, ensuring we bring in the right tech at the right moment in time?
Yes, a bit take on Danone. So Danone, for those of you who know, we are a more than 100-year-old company in the food industry. We are leading 3 segments of food, so the dairy and plant-based type of products, also specialized nutrition and waters. And so you can imagine the first need to use technology was really in the top line, how to fuel growth, how to get marketing and sales teams into the technology-driven type of market approach. Now, it's interesting that I think maybe Danone is probably similar to other FMCGs. We have a lot of money to invest in technology. The question is, do we make the right choices? And are these choices scalable? So around 2-3 years ago in the GBS organization, we had basically the mandate to start to look at the intersection between process, technology, and data. And so I think we've advanced very, very, very significantly on that 3-dimensional type of equation. So today we start to see that, in fact, we all are talking about artificial intelligence, but process intelligence is a big topic. I was in an event a few weeks ago in Munich with one of the big startups in Europe, Celonis, and they were talking about process intelligence quite significantly. But there is also data intelligence. And I think these 3 together start to present themselves to Danone as the way to go, not only to enable transactional operations in a more efficient, streamlined type of way, but ultimately to deliver better products to our customers, our consumers, and why not even to use that technology to innovate in the food industry, which is one of those areas where, I mean, we look at our markets, food has become a little bit of a stagnant type of area, so it's important that innovation continues to come to food. As we say in Danone, food is, we are what we eat, right? So we need to bring health through food to as many people. And so technology will play a big role in that, but not alone. It will need the other dimensions, like I say, process, data, and all together, I think that will become a very powerful equation.
Okay, talking about the oil and gas industry and investments, obviously, we are investing a lot. For us, the most important areas where we are putting most of our money is in the analytics of seismic data. Basically what we are doing, we are drilling very deep holes and hope to find gas or oil. Still makes a lot of sense to find gas. We are just exploiting now the biggest European gas field in the Black Sea from Romania. So there we have to be sure that where we drill, we really hit the gas reservoirs that we can get the gas out. So there we have a lot of seismic data. We are talking about petabytes of data that we have to analyze and really determine where we drill, because every drilling in the deep sea, like the Black Sea, it's more or less 100 kilometers what we are drilling there under the subsurface. You really have to make sure that you hit the right point. Okay? Then when we look for example, at carbon capture, you want to capture the CO2, what is in the air, in order to reduce the warming of the Earth. You have to put it somewhere where it doesn't get out. So also there, our seismic data really helps us to determine where these places are underground, where we can store for the next hundreds or thousands of years without the CO2 coming out again. So there we are analyzing only with AI because it's huge amounts of data. There are very few computers in the world that can really handle and optimize these processes. Then we are, of course, looking, for example, in the future, we want to integrate more into the chemicals industry in order to leave the oil. And when we are now sitting together with car manufacturers and defining the criteria of new plastics, what they use, let's say, for bumpers in the cars, I mean, we are also simulating and anticipating, so we don't have to create all the models now. We can really anticipate the molecules, how they have to fit together, and there we're investing also a lot because this really helps us to work, for example, with the car industry, using a lot of plastic, that we already create the molecules and the plastics with the facilities that they need in their products. So this is really where we invest. When we are now talking specifically for GBS, I mean, there it is more process automation, obviously with AI, the next level. I think there I would like to have more money because it's fun. It's really something new after RPA and really investing there that we get more in there and get more traction and be really one of the leading companies. I would like to have more budget, honestly.
And with regard to more budget, perhaps also who is deciding something? Let's have a look at cloud infrastructure. Perhaps starting with you, Jan. Who is deciding how much in the GBS should invest in cloud infrastructure and working together with the headquarter? Or is it rather the headquarter driving you? Is there even a change coming currently to work there more closely even together with cloud infrastructure?
I mean, as I have both heads. So on the one hand, I'm the CIO, and I can control which infrastructure we use. But at the same time, of course, also head of GBS. So there, this gives me a privileged position to balance the different demands. I think for us, we are really looking as a company now, as we are in the big transformation of a company, of a very successful oil and gas company now to an energy company, we are looking at our business services. They are not the most important because the oil and gas business is so powerful, but still we want to optimize further. So what I really like in this case, it's not so, I mean, the hybrid, as a CIO, we have a hybrid infrastructure like everybody, so we are managing several clouds at the same time to optimize cost and performance. It gives me also then with GBS access to the resources that I need for further optimization of processes, obviously. And any new applications that we are introducing, I like the cloud, not because they are cloud, but they're more standard. So we stop changing our applications, the new ones that we introduce. Every year there's a bunch of new applications. It's very difficult to get rid of the old ones. But what I like about the new ones, you cannot change them so much anymore. It's more or less, this is what you get, use it tomorrow. This is really efficient for
Plug and play, yeah. And the others, Antonio, also, you mentioned also you have a lot of legacy.
Maybe to add to the point, I think, again, for us, being a very regulated industry and activity, it's a triangle of three things. It's the work we do with our regulators and the body around us that defines what is possible to be done. And there's a lot of constructive conversation regarding that has evolved massively in the last 5 years. It's also with our counterparts, those providers, and they tend to be very concentrated because actually there are only like 2 or 3 that have a scale that you can use, and all of them are US-based. So in itself, it's something you need to take into account. And then our own pace to adopt and to use cloud. So we have a very conscious, progressive approach saying we need to be comfortable that what we are doing to the cloud makes sense from an economical point of view. Our regulators need to be comfortable that we have to find the right boundaries, what could be done or not, and our providers have to adjust. And one of the things we realize is that it's not that easy to understand how to do business in our context. So it takes a bit of time, even if the dialogue is there, that we ensure that when we say something is actually understood, and all the nuances between the difference between when you have to operate in a world context, regulated versus those providers as such. So we are going more to the cloud, and we see the benefits of it. It's a very progressive, controlled approach. That is always the relation of these 3 conversations. Do we have the right regulatory environment? Do the providers understand it and deploy it? And does it make sense for us? And that's what is kind of like setting the pace, and we see that over time it's getting better, and we will do more, but always with this equation to manage.
Someone wants to add? I don't know.
I can add a couple of words here because everyone is so excited about going to cloud, and this is super nice, interoperability, we can focus on the most important things, but we need also to consider all the other factors that are not obvious and are emerging like mushrooms while you are implementing the cloud infrastructure in your end. So, for example, in the regulated environment, we need to care where the data is actually stored. It cannot be in the cloud somewhere there. It is really regulated how it can flow between the continents, and it has to be in the contract agreed. Second thing is, what about the countries where you are not able to access the cloud, where there is a complete lock, like China, how you develop access there, how you will use their cloud, and what about your data then? And then the third one, and this was very short, is the financials. So everyone is considering going to the cloud, and I'm an advocate of the cloud, but this is the risks part. Everyone considers going to the cloud is also saving money, but if you do it wrong, this is very easily accessible. So every team can be encouraged and then start being greedy, and then you are going to the cloud, but with your financial spend. So this is something that you need also to consider when going into the cloud. So it is not a showstopper for you, it is this engine of the transformation.
And I totally agree with Mariusz. And indeed, what is important after you go into the cloud and you have this first step in reduction of scope is that you do continuous monitoring. Mm-hmm. And you do this on a regular basis. And what you need to check is whether the environment that you're actually paying for is still relevant and important, and whether all the users that give access to those areas, they still need it. So after you went into migration into cloud, you really need to put in place a very clear monitoring of the costs, as Mariusz was saying, because financial is important. And of course, you go into the cloud not just for the costs, it's also to access technologies, to scale, to be able really to put all your process in place that you can grow. This is the number one, but financials is extremely important.
Yeah. Jan, please, yeah, or Mauro.
Maybe one more comment. I think the infrastructure that technology is using is not really important. But of course, one of the most important migrations for GBS organizations is probably SAP. I'm not sure, but I think most of us are really beginning, hopefully at the end or in the middle of the migration of our financial and procurement systems, thanks to SAP. Costs us a lot of effort, money, and management attention to go through these major updates for GBS, because this is where our financial procurement and HR processes mostly are hosted. So I think this is one of the big things what we all have to deal with as GBS organizations, that just takes or sucks away almost years of our productivity improvements because we have to go through these bloody upgrades.
Mauro, you wanted to add something?
Yes, just to add, so I'm not the person who selects the cloud solutions, but I'm definitely, and my team's a massive user of it. So it's not questionable the value it creates for GBS, because we can then work in so many different locations and we can really leverage this type of fluidity of work quite efficiently. But it is true that there are some challenges that come with it, and sometimes that's where business and IT need to work together. So like China, my team is actually pivoting China at the moment, so there are a lot of discussions around where the data needs to be created, where it needs to be stored. We know in the US, in the healthcare system, there is a lot of discussion about private cloud, local private clouds that are isolated and don't have any connection with the vaster, more broad environment. So I think at the end, technology will help us, but we need to be cautious, just like AI. Where is the data being stored? How is it being used? How can it be accessed? And so from a business point of view, I mean, we are, especially in FMCG, it's so competitive that anything that gets leaked or lost can be a loss of millions. So for us, that's probably the main concern from the business front on the cloud solutions that are selected and put in place.
And you all mentioned already AI. Let's look at this a little bit more in detail. And I think there are a lot of topics around AI. At least I see always opportunities. I think in Germany, at yesterday also a discussion on this one, most of them are always facing the risk. Yeah, can we control it? But I think still it's more enable us, especially our people, and perhaps also in 1 or 2 years gives us totally different skills we need to look at, because an AI can perhaps then also take over. From this perspective, a little bit, one, perhaps monitoring how you include it, and from a cost perspective, but also efficiency. And also a little bit who wants do you allow your people also to play around a little bit with Gen AI? Is this usable? And what is your future thinking about your workforce and the impact of AI? Let's start with this a little bit. Who wants first?
Maybe I can start.
Yeah.
So I think the problem we sort of figured out over the last couple of months and years is that we talk a lot about AI, but we don't really know deeply what it means. And now we've started also to look into use cases. So I was presenting yesterday in Amsterdam a very interesting use case where we are trying to prevent fraud with AI. So it's, let's say, a bit of an AI for good. But we know that fraud is going to amplify. The statistics say that companies will lose something between $20 to $40 billion in fraud because of AI. And if there was no AI, this would be around 15 billion, you know? So that's what Deloitte is saying on their recent study on that. So using AI for this type of use case is very interesting because we figured out that we couldn't just start using it. We first needed to design a process with different lines of defense and figure out where are our vulnerabilities. We had to lock the door, shut the windows. For example, we had to migrate all bank data to one system. We had it in multiple systems and everyone thought that was okay, but it was not okay. So we had to put it in one place. And now we start to look at AI as the enabler to learn from our process and to try to then help us prevent and more in the proactive manner, reduce this risk to acceptable level and minimize loss. We sometimes say our objective is zero fraud. We know it's impossible, so it's something that sits as a North Star for our teams. But it's a very interesting use case that has taught us a lot about how AI can work. And one of the difficulties, just to conclude, is we also see that AI requires a lot of data. So if you don't have enough data, you will definitely go into this hallucination type of thing. And I recently saw in a conference, someone was writing live on stage, what is the safety stock of the HR department? And ChatGPT gave an answer to that. So the other thing is also, it never says, I don't know, right? If you've noticed that. It always gives you an answer. So it's very important to try to understand what is the quality of this answer. And I think a lot of data is needed, more so than we think. So if you don't have that much data, you probably need to look elsewhere or wait for the technology to mature with less data sets.
But isn't also this one, we had discussion also with your own team, it's the same. You ask your young team member, do you know this? And he will always say yes. Yeah. And afterwards just need to ensure was the answer then the right one. Yeah. I think we also need to work together with Gen AI like a teammate, yeah, some of our teams, and also criticism this, yeah, I can ask him.
So
Mariusz.
if I add, because there was a question, you allow people to play with AI. So on one end, ChatGPT itself acquired 100 million of users with less than a week. And no one allowed them to do it, right? They just decided to do. And this is a bit dangerous. It shouldn't be like that in the responsible company. So I don't know how it is in your companies, but we decided to have an AI platform as part of our AI strategy. This AI platform is our platform, so it is closed one, so it is also ethically tuned for also our values. And then the sharing of data is not possible to the outside the world because this is a very important thing. We cannot do anything like that. Then we can, in the next steps, actually this is already completed, we can integrate it with our data and then even progress further. And then on such platform, we may allow users to play, and we actually have already a couple of thousands of users from different functions playing, but it has to be first equipped with the training, with the awareness of with the literacy training. And the platform that we are having, and I'm sharing with you this experience right now, is there is a set of personas that we identified, and each of those personas is provided a training. And this is not only general training, it is going a bit deeper. So people are equipped how to really use AI in their daily work. But this is not all. Then they are coming with the use cases, and we have the AI Center of Excellence, which helps them with the start of those use cases. And I believe such educated way, and of course there is much more into it, but we have limited amount of time, such educated approach to AI playing makes it more democratic, and then many functions can progress with their own input into the AI, what kind of specific trainings they need or what kind of specific upskilling they need. So for example, software engineers, they will go with the Copilot, but the others will go with some pipelines establishing for proteins interaction processing. This is really how I think should be implementation of empowerment of the users in the organization going on.
So we are on the lucky position of being an IT service provider. Actually, we asked immediately after ChatGPT went out and AI became a big hype, we asked them, play with it as much as you can. Find out how can we use it. Because they were not use cases for companies. And in a very regulated environment, you need really to pick what is the correct use case. And of course, also to pick the one that brings value. And for us, we actually, I think it was a year and a half when I joined, we had an internal challenge at Billenium. Everybody, every company, every employee at Billenium was supposed to have an idea, present an idea, and there was a winner which was awarded. Then we implemented artificial intelligence internally at Billenium to automate some services to make sure that we learn first so that later we can help our client implement and find use cases that make sense for them.
Yeah, maybe just to add to what my colleagues have said, I think the only thing I would add to it is that very often you're not the only one producing a data set, or it's a combination of a series of things. So you are in a value chain, somebody produces data, you consume, you give it back. So what we're also trying to do is to understand in our ecosystem, how do we have a common understanding who owns what data? Because very often it starts somewhere, it goes somewhere, somebody uses it. The most usual example is who owns the result of the model which is trained. So when you remove the data, you still want the result of the more advanced model. And that only comes if you discuss with the counterparty. So not only the use case sandbox makes a lot of sense, but also trying to figure out in a broader scheme of things when you scale up, what does your ecosystem think about it? Because very often you need everybody to have a common understanding where they want to go, because you're not in isolation. These data sets tend to be the result of a series of events or products which are different in the domains, and we're trying to spend time to understand, do we have a common understanding, do we don't have a common understanding, where we can agree or disagree, because that will be a condition to scale up and to be able to also deliver value as we go along.
Maybe for us, one of the big success stories that we already have delivered in this area is a combination of the IT organization together with GBS. OMV at the moment is really in a transformation and acquiring a lot of companies with different business models than our own. So as an oil and gas company, we are buying now a lot of waste management companies because we want to have access to plastic, to put it back into our refineries and recycle chemically the plastic. So what we have set up as IT plus GBS is basically a merger and acquisition team, heavily supported with AI. It means when our M&A teams are going out, we help them to read a lot of documents and survey the market, what is out there. So reading annual reports of small companies that are doing waste management, especially in the plastic area. Once we have identified the target, you know it yourself, you have a data room, you have to read a lot of documents in all languages, forms and shapes. Again, if you can use AI, your finance team becomes super efficient in studying and getting the relevant data out of it. Then, of course, you negotiate, and then when you have to integrate them, for us, again, we have big SAP systems designed for oil and gas companies that is really centralized organizations. If we acquire a waste management company in Hungary or in Romania, and we are coming with a big SAP, is not really working for the small company. So we have designed also with the technology then ways to extract the data very fast from non-SAP system and put it into our consolidation that we still can close the month as an oil and gas company within 3 days after month-end closing. So there we have used in many areas together with GBS and IT this new technology that really has helped us, and it works. And this is, of course, a strategic area where, of course, also our CEO recognizes the benefits and sees what we are doing. We are trying, of course, now to leverage this also in our process optimization. Again, AI, let's see how this goes. There are some very good examples where we have significant performance improvements compared to RPA. It gets faster, cheaper, and also with a very high level of automation. But there are also examples where you have a crappy process and put AI on top of it, and you just have an expensive, crappy process. So it cannot solve everything.
But currently, looking at your current portfolio and your current workforce, and perhaps also the global scale, will Gen AI help you to broaden this much faster than perhaps expected? So adding people as a more analytic work and not only the transactional where we are coming from, but also moving more and more also in more analytic services in your centers. Is this also something you're currently discussing already? Jan?
In our case, for example, we had invested 5 years ago in a lot of money into our data scientists, because 5 years ago you had to be a data scientist. Today you have to be an AI expert. So of course when you follow this, but there we already trained a lot of people in this data science and how to deal with the data that we have. Now with AI, all of a sudden you need good data. So this is kind of a bummer. So we have to go back and really look at the quality of our data, that we really get good predictions out of it. But based on this citizen development or citizen data analytics, what we have done there, we are now doing the same approach to train more or less all our office workforce. So 10,000 people. We are at 8,000 at the moment. With internal training material, also based on personas, that everybody, there's a finance guy, there's a procurement, there's an HR guy. In HR, there are really very good success stories we can tell already. So we try to have everybody knowing how it works. Everybody has it on his PC or on his smartphone and whatever. Our own internal training machine and training data where he can play around and fiddle around. And we really hope that when we bring it to everybody, because this promise of 20% performance improvement only applies where you use it. If you don't use it, no performance improvement. So if the CEO asks me, what should we do now? Should we fire 20% because we have AI? No, please don't. Not yet. We are not there yet. Let's see.
Yeah, rather put more services on and don't and educate the people. Sorry,
I would have the same experience. Don't fire them yet at all. What we see today is it's very good augmenting performance and removing the burden of some very cumbersome tasks. So you have too much systems, you lose time to find the right answer, or you need to do a change somewhere else. So it's relatively low level intelligence, if you want, because we just think it's too early stage. And very often we get in love with technology very quickly. So we expect it's going to solve everything. It does not, but the results pan out. What is impressive for us with AI is the pace of which you learn and that which the technology improves. So, and this is our kind of like bet that is not going to deliver immediate all these 20% kind of improvements as such, but probably it will not take 5 to 10 to get there, is more 2 to 5. Which is different than other technologies that probably would have a longer maturity cycle and then a longer adoption cycle. But for now, there's still a mismatch between the consulting part of the pitch and what we observe as being the first experimentations.
If I may add a sort of different dimension. So we've been recruiting a lot of young people in the last couple of years, as our organization is quite new for master data. And what I see is that, especially the young talent, they come in and they want us to give them a playground. There is no question about it. So if there is no playground, I'm going somewhere else. So it's more or less logical now that we have to create these playgrounds. And I sometimes say, you know, the benefit of working in a big corporation is the size of the playground, right? It's the scalability of what you can build. And so I think that giving access to more of the young talent that is coming into that playground and creating a good mix of interaction between also the people who are there for several years is demystifying a lot what AI can do. So there is less fear, I think, at least in my organization, about replacement of job, but there is a huge excitement about augmenting our capability of doing the job better. And so I think this excitement is sort of a momentum. I don't think it's like a journey. I don't think you can really measure it right now. But I do feel that there is a spark that comes through when you mix the people who are already running transactional process for a long time, who know the processes really well, with younger people who say, why are you asking me to repeat this task 50 times? I'm going to automate it. And that's why I was saying in the beginning, there is a lot of, we have more money than we think to invest, but we sometimes give the opportunity for the young people just to use technology that we already have. I mean, things like Power Automate is super simple, and they do fantastic things with it. Then we put other people on 80-hour training, and we don't get exactly the same benefit, you see. So the truth is somewhere in between. If you've noticed also on the market, I'm a big fan of Claude. He's one of my favorite chat service. And they just announced the power of the PC usage. And the PC usage is, by the way, very similar to a lot of the automations we've been doing in the last 5 years. So even that will probably not need a real automation anymore. It will be something that AI can do quite easily. So these things are arriving quite fast. So we're also asking ourselves, should we keep investing in large programs with a lot of hours of training? We really like the citizen development type of approach. This is really working super well because it creates that playground for us. But I think the teams are really excited about leveraging it more than the fear of, what it can impact them.
Yeah. And it's a huge impact on efficiency, but I think also quality. Do you think also that then the matter of labor arbitrage, so cost rates, will also go perhaps a little bit aside with the possibility more to steer efficiency and be perhaps sometimes even faster, and then the cost rate doesn't matter anymore? Is this also something which comes in your mind currently?
If I may just add one on that, I'll be brief. I'm a strong believer that we need to look at output cost of unitary work. And that's a very important metric for the next couple of years. Because it's less about FTE, it's more about how much it costs us to create a vendor, how much it costs us to run a transaction. And that should be the ultimate goal, reducing that cost to the max and using technology to do that. And then the workforce will stand behind that because they will be the creators of that usage. So I think that there is a very important shift we need to do as GBS leaders is to move more and more into this output cost of unitary work, which is, I think, where the value can really be well explained. I struggle. I'm still in the FTE cost reduction type of discussions every week. But I do think that the more we crack that equation, the more it drives us in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think we really need to think as GenAI as a piece of the puzzle. It's definitely something that if the companies don't embrace now, they will not thrive in the future. It's something that we need to pilot. We need to have the employees work with it, learn. We need talent. But there is also a need for a strategic roadmap that needs to come from the top, that the leaders and the managers of the companies decide clearly to go that path, even if this is not bringing savings immediately. And we have the discussion with some of our clients where they see, for example, very good RPA implemented process in the last year, but suddenly they realize now we have 20 developers that need to maintain this. Is it cost saving? No, we're actually replacing someone internal with external, which is not value adding. So we do think that AI will be the next step, definitely. But at the moment, we are seeing similar difficulties as we are doing with the RPA, because we still see a lot of difficulties about the processes, for example. Are the processes good? The data, is the quality of the data good? Is the organization ready to embrace it? So it's one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, maybe to top it with some thoughts. It's not only about the efficiency of the specific people doing things faster. This was with the RPA. With the AI, it is going way deeper into all elements of the organizational management. So, for example, it's transforming the whole business processes. It is also enforcing us to think again about the data we are having, what kind of data strategy we have. Without data, AI produces really bad results, you know it. So the scarcity of data is a challenge. One thing, because I would like to use this opportunity from the stage to show you one of the threads that is there in the related to data scarcity, which was not touched before. It is AI also generates data, and then it is trained on this generated data, and then it generates new data. In the end, already after a few years of such activity of AI, we have difficulties in finding what is the real data, what is not. I see a lot of people now in the iPhones, so please search for baby peacock image, and you will find 90% AI generated. You will not be able to teach your kids how this bird looks like. And you can also, you know, ask if you are on the ChatGPT. This is the year, and so please write me a performance management yearly review for Juan, knowing that Juan did well. You will receive 3 pages, right? Because there is no data, there is hallucinations, there is no responsible usage. Lots of new abilities, competences have to emerge with AI. Not only data, collaboration, different collaboration, including the partnerships. So we cannot do things on our own. There are also a lot of other smaller groups, smaller companies, institutions with which we need to partner. And then it creates a learning mindset in your organization. And for me, this is the transformational instead of only increasing the efficiency.
Maybe one more example of this. Again, oil and gas companies, we have huge plants in the refineries. And one big issue that we have, we don't get people anymore who want to work there. It's not the nicest place to work. It's hot, it's steamy, it can smell bad, it's risky. So our vision for the future is really the unmanned refinery that you can remotely control far away, and you don't have people anymore walking around. In a big refinery, there are up to 2,000 people. This is not possible without AI. So we are really looking into all these sensors, what are there, increasing significantly the number of sensors that we have. Based on the sensor data, of course, we can control it remotely and then put more and more agents on top of this really to manage it. So we are forced on the one hand, because not enough people. It would increase quality and security, obviously, and of course give us a completely new level and leverage of our assets that we already have invested so much money in. I mean, this is a vision for the next 10 years. It will take time. On the short term, it helps us. I mean, we also have these constraints or this mandatory compliance with ESG reporting. So our CO2 generation is super important at the moment. It's a highly manual process, mostly on Excel sheets that are then consolidated and consolidated and consolidated and then reported. So there, this increase of sensors in the refineries helps us really to automate this process. And there again, we have a combination of IT and GBS. Of course, we are looking that every business in our company can have their own ESG experts, but we are really combining the ESG reporting with the financial reporting, because we are planning CO2 reporting or greenhouse gas reporting. We are consolidating it when one business is selling products to the other. So it is really like finance, and instead of managing euros, dollars, or whatever, we are also managing CO2 tons. So there, this implementation of more on the technical side, sensors, getting this data, automating it, and then of course we have now GBS on the finance side, who gets also another leverage into new services that we can directly put into GBS, and there again, IT and GBS can work very, very well together.
Looking at a little bit on this situation in Europe, where there's also the big player in US and Asia, do you think currently enough power, and are we fast enough to develop AI from your perspective, what you see in the market, or are there faster movements outside of Europe?
Just maybe to start on that, I think, of course, if you look at the large providers today, they're US-based. There are a few in Europe. But I think what we see is there's a lot of talent in Europe. Mm-hmm. So when you accept that you can recruit a bit everywhere, which is one of the benefits of being where we are, it is possible to build relatively quickly critical mass of the right brains. And we observe it because, for instance, our teams are incredibly diverse. We are everywhere in Europe, basically, but you need to accept that it's not necessarily in your own market you're going to find that. If you see it like that, I think there's enough talent everywhere to build, but we need to continue to invest because, I mean, we see this accelerate over the last 6 years, so we think it's not too late, but we need to accept that we have to go wider and see us as a market and not look at specifically a given country versus the other. When you do that, that makes a difference. And we observed when we were willing to open the door and go beyond our natural pool of recruitment, that was helpful, and there was a lot of talent everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
I think we need to work together as Europe instead of set of countries, because if you look at the leaders in the patents, AI-based, it is almost half-half split US and China. There is South Korea, by the way, there too. But as just independent countries, we are not able to compete. And maybe we need also to think if we are protecting the intellectual property very well, because maybe some of those patents registered by US are coming from Europe, and I bet this is also the case. So protecting also our intellectual property and working together, this may create the counterbalance to this duo.
Super. Many thanks. This was hopefully a good discussion for all of you. 24 minutes. We are absolutely in point. Yeah, many, many thanks for all of your insights you gave. Many thanks.